Hello everybody, welcome to Average Joe's Woodworking. Thanks for tuning in today. Just going to do a quick short video of a project I'm doing, which involves epoxy. So, I will have the link to the description below on what I'm using here. Simple tools that I use. Little plastic stir stick. What's great about these, when it dries off, or the epoxy cures rather, it just cracks right off and you got a reusable spoon, stir stick. A little spreader, silicone, same thing. As soon as it dries off, and just clean it off like that, and you're good to go. Little silicone measuring cup. Any old cup will work because you measure out equal parts. The epoxy I'm using is 1:1, meaning if you did 10 10 milliliters of part A, you'd use 10 to part B, mix it up, and you're good to go. So you got A side. I also have a rubber glove. Not on my other hand, just more control, and if you want to use two, you can. A side is a lot slower and a lot thicker when it comes out, but I'm just going to do ten milliliters of that, part A. Put the cap back on there, and then you get B side, part B. I just use the same little beaker. Do equal parts there. I got the window cracked open. It's good to have fresh air with all of this because it does stink. So when you stir, you want to stir slow. And just mix it all together, but stir slow to minimize air bubbles. And I will show you how to get rid of the air bubbles in just a second after I apply it. I've learned that the project that I'm working on, to apply multiple coats to round edges and you want like a uniform look, takes a lot of work, a lot of prep work, but it looks so good once it finally cures. So we'll just mix, and you can kind of see, it's hard to show on camera, but you'll get some bubbles in there, that's fine, but you'll start to see that it looks a little cloudy. It's the part A and part B reacting. And you just want to make sure you don't have any clear left over. You want the cloudiness. So I'm just mixing that up. And you get like a almost syrup texture. I have a knot that I'm filling up in the back of this piece. So I'm going to use the majority of that, of this mixture, to fill that up. But this will be the final coat that I've done on this project. So you can either pour it, that tends to make a mess, but your stir stick also works as a spoon, and you can have a lot better control that way. So I'm just going to scoop it up. and transfer it into that knot and fill that knot up. I'm just going to use the rest of the drizzle off of that one. And then I'm going to move over to my next piece for the final coat. I'm going to use a lot less. I've learned a little goes a long way. So let that drizzle on there. Dunk it one more time. I got 3 other smaller pieces. Let that drip on there. Move over to the next piece. I should also mention that what they are sitting on is a silicone mat. That's great because after it dries, for whatever reason, I don't know the science behind it, but silicone, just like a silicone baking sheet, cookies, whatever you put on there after it's done, it comes off and it's easy to clean up. And it does not stick to the project you're working on with the epoxy. So just drizzling what I think I'm going to need. Can always go back. This is not a fast cure epoxy. It takes quite a while, so don't worry about mixing it and, oh, I have such a short time frame to work before it hardens on me. No, it stays in this liquid form for quite some time, but it will get less mendable, or I don't even know if that's the right term, but you won't be able to work with it as well as you would if you let it sit for a long time. So if I show you this, it will kind of pour out there, but I'm going to take my little spreading tool. I'm just going to do the last coat on this back side here. Cover up all, I mean, it's fairly well coated, but there are a couple spots that I want to hit. So kind of like decorating a cake, which I've rarely ever done, but that's the only way I can describe it, is you're spreading the frosting on the cake. You just want to coat the nooks and crannies that you missed, nooks and crannies that weren't quite perfect. That one looks fine to me right now. I'm going to move on to the next big one here for the final coat. This one's got a design on it on the back side here. Just covering all that up. I want it to be a smooth finish, like a bar top finish. And it will auto level itself. Like, make sure your table is level, and for the most part mine is. Alright, so we got that. These smaller pieces are a tad easier. I got a spot there. I'm trying to minimize runoff, although it's easy to peel off, but if you have too much runoff, it will drip down the sides. I've learned from this project, will drip down the sides, and you have all sorts of excess that you'll end up needing to sand off. And in order to get the glossy finish that is so easy to do with epoxy, it's very hard to sand it smooth and make it clear all over again. It takes some very, very fine grit sandpaper. It's almost like you're wet sanding it. But just like that, I have them coated how I would like them to be. Don't worry about all that. Right there. You can even leave your stir stick. See, I poured way too much. And you could say that's a waste, but if you're going to mix it, better have too much than too little and have to mix more, especially if you're working with time-sensitive epoxy, where it cures really fast and you don't have a lot of time. Now, I don't see many air bubbles in the little pieces, but where I poured the epoxy, or a lot of it, and I'm going to add a little more because the wood had soaked up some of it. Putting a little more on there, and I still get some bubbles. Okay, I'm going to take this off because I don't need it anymore. A MAP gas torch. Everybody loves fire, but you'll see the little air bubbles in there. And be careful with fire inside. Obviously, adult supervision. Don't try this at home. But I'll hold it away, and all I'm going to do is just squeeze the trigger and just blip the fire out just for a short burst. And that's where it really stinks, and you want the window open, or if you are able to, do it outside. Downside of doing it outside, that looks good enough to me. And just to be sure, see, there were even surface bubbles on that one, on the small pieces that I saw pop open. And there's more bubbles coming up right now, and they're popping. I can show you this real quick. So the bubbles are coming up. And I suppose I haven't, sorry, bear with me on the camera there. I suppose I haven't seen it bubble up like that, but that is the wood taking in more of the epoxy. I've done 3 other coats on these last ones, and this 4th one should be the one that does it, and then can deliver the final product to the family that I've worked so hard to do this project for, and I'm really happy I can. And I can't wait to share the final project. Obviously, you've only seen the sides of these and just the back side of that one, but waiting for permission, and there's other fun things I have planned. So hope you enjoyed this video on just some basic 2-part epoxy. I'm going to leave the room. The fumes are starting to get a little crazy. Make sure you leave the window cracked. Make sure nobody else is able to walk in here. If you have little kids, just make sure you have plenty of ventilation. But over 24 hours, this will be nice and hard, be ready to hold. And if there's any sanding required afterwards to just make a nice clean look, we'll take care of that after. Alright guys, be well, stay healthy, and take care during these hard times. Bye.